Hello everyone and welcome back to the vlog. Now I'm trying something a little bit different in this episode. I'm trying out the ANDYCINE T6 field monitor and seeing how it works for us traditional still photographers. Normally a monitor like this would be used for videography, but how will it fare in using it out in the landscape? I'm looking forward to putting it to the test and seeing if there's some real advantages to switching away from the small LCD screen and using something a bit more visual. So if you're like me and you spend a long time composing in camera your images, working from a tripod, waiting for that perfect light, then this might be a game changer. The ANDYCINE T6 is a 6-inch monitor with a brightness of 450 nits. Now, that's not the brightest monitor for strong daylight conditions, perhaps like today, and that could be make or break for this style of photography. We'll have to see. It mounts easily to your camera's hot shoe or a side bracket, and I've got it powered with an MPF battery, but you can also use USB-C if you're somewhere that you've got an actual power supply or a power bank with you. It's easier to judge your composition, level and focus compared to squinting at the 3-inch LCD, especially when your camera is low to the ground or in awkward positions. So walking up the side of the waterfall here, I've just ducked under this tree, and the way that the light's just catching it from behind, you can just see the moss on those branches, just the light's up behind there, and it really is casting a lovely shadow, and those sort of interlaced branches coming through almost towards me makes a really lovely shot. So what I'm going to do, I've just put on a Maven polarizer just to knock back some of that bright reflection, but I will have to wait for that light to dip down a bit. Now what I'm going to probably have to do with this image is focus stack this, because we've got this beautiful branch that comes out towards me with all the moss draped over it, which you can see coming up to the top left corner here, and then that brings the eye back down to the main tree itself. But there's quite a distance between those two. Could be okay, but what I'll do is I'm going to focus stack one on the branch that's closest to me and then the tree, just to make sure that everything's nice and clear. So anyway, what I'll do is I'm going to get this shot first, and then I'll tell you a little bit about some of the features on the ANDYCINE monitor. The ANDYCINE T6 is a 6-inch 4K DSLR video monitor made from a durable aluminium shell. Although it's at the lower end of the budget, when it comes to video monitors, it does have surprisingly advanced features, including 3D output support, waveform monitoring, vector scope, histogram, focus assist, false colors, exposure tools, image zoom, image flip, and even anamorphic mode. Now the screen itself has a full HD 1920 by 1080 resolution. In the box you get an F550 battery, USB charger, a carry case, HDMI cable, hot shoe mount, sunshade, and of course the user manual. Now, one thing I am noticing is there's a big difference in quality looking at the back of the monitor and looking at the back of the LCD screen. This is fantastic for composing. I can really sort of visualize the image, see where the branches off. It's a lot easier, especially for somebody like me that needs the glasses and perhaps the eyesight's not so good. So having that larger image is great, but the detail in the LCD screen is far superior. Now, this is a low budget monitor. I think this is around about £130 on Amazon. That's not expensive for a monitor that we would use for something like videography or something like that. And And so perhaps it hasn't got that same level of detail that you might find on the sort of higher end. And as I say, I'm definitely finding it easier to compose. It's great having that size, but there's a big difference in image quality. I can really see the sort of contrasts on the LCD screen from dark to light, whereas here it's very blocky. There's some solid shadow areas, and some of those highlight areas are really blown out, which are showing on the histogram as not the case. So it'd be interesting to see. Perhaps I'll end up by flipping between the two. Maybe that really kind of defies the point. But anyway, hey, let me show you some of the features that are on the back of this monitor. So let's look at some of the features that are in the menu on this monitor. Now, it's not the easiest of menus to use because it's not actually touch screen, because it's obviously a sort of low-end budget monitor. It's quite fiddly using the settings at the back. You press one button to bring up the menu, you press the same button to take it across menus, you scroll up and down. It really isn't easy. So please bear with me while I work my way through here. Now, the first thing that I'm going to show is the histogram on the back of here. So let's hit menu, bring that up, hit on. You can see it's quite a, let's go back to there. Now, I haven't found the histogram that useful, and I'll show you why. Because if I put the histogram on the back of the camera, you can actually see that there isn't really a lot of difference in size. And if anything, it's a little bit more accurate on the back of my camera. So not sure on that. Maybe for a videographer, that might be more useful. Don't know. But for me, in this instance, I'd much prefer just to bring up the camera histogram and see it visually from the back of the camera. Okay, now next on the menu, we've got Focus Assist. Now, what I did find useful about Focus Assist on here is it really gave me a lot more settings to actually be able to set it up. Now let me show you. So if I switch it on, and as I say, I'm not doing brilliantly on here, but I've set up, so now we can see which areas of the image are actually, I'm going to leave the menu on just so you can see clearly. Now I've set it up so that you can actually see which area of the image are in focus. Those are showing in red. We can change the color of that to make it easier to see if we want to, but we can also adjust the peaking level to make it that much more clearer. Now, I think probably on a lot of mirrorless cameras, that's already built in, but on the D850, you've got sort of peak 1, peak 2, peak 3, and it doesn't give you as much adjustment. So that's quite useful if you find it easier to see on a monitor this size. And it just confirms really that the main parts of the image that you're looking at are sharply in focus. Now, something that I really did struggle with on here is the actual zoom in, zoom out function. Let me just go through to image. We've got zoom mode. Now, if I take it down to zoom mode, this enables you to basically be able to zoom in on the monitor 2 times, 4 times, 9 times, and actually increase that. You can sort of change it. But because the menu is so clunky to use and so difficult to use, I've just found it so much easier just zooming in and zooming out with the camera or using the actual camera zoom itself. I've already got this set up with a quick shortcut button on the back of the camera so that I can zoom right into my image. So one touch of the button, I can zoom right in, focus my shot, make sure it's nice and sharp, zoom back out again. Why I would want to go up to the menus, go to the zoom option, change the magnification, I really don't know. Now, obviously I can set that as a function key too. There are a couple of function keys on the top of the camera, but when I can just click a button on the back of the camera, zoom in and zoom back out again, I really wouldn't find that useful at all. Now, one of the things that I really did find useful on the monitor, and that's mainly because I'm shooting on the D850. With the D850, when I bring up a grid, I get a 4x4 grid. And now this really isn't useful when you're trying to use the rule of thirds to compose your images. Now, a lot of modern cameras, mirrorless cameras, you can change this, but on the D850, you can't. So that's one of the nice things on here, is that we can set up the grid and we can actually change that so that we can change our grid so that we've got a 2x2, 3x3, etc. We can change the color of grid. And I found that really useful, especially for composing images, and takes me away from that 4x4 grid, which has really frustrated me on the D850. So let's summarize my experience with using the ANDYCINE T6 Monitor. Well, positives. It's great for someone like me with bad eyesight being able to compose images on a monitor like this. It's the equivalent of going from your mobile phone to a tablet. It really helps you to sort of see everything, and all of that image. Being able to compose it has been a great help. I've enjoyed using the grid system, getting away from the grid system that's standard on the D850. It does slow up the process. Now, I've always said that about using a tripod. It slows your process, which I think is a good thing. But that menu, it's difficult to use. It's slow, it's cumbersome. I could see that a touch screen would be so much easier. Yes, it does add bulk to your whole setup. We've got the monitor now on top of the camera. If you're not traveling far and if you're photographing in a specific area, then that isn't a problem. But it is extra gear. Now, I'd be interested to see how it would work with macro photography, where we're zooming in and looking at real small, intricate detail. That might be easier to compose on this monitor, or the image quality of the monitor might not be just good enough when you're working at that incredibly small, fine detail. So, in summary, yes, it's a useful tool to have. Would I use it? Probably not. To be honest with you, I still enjoy the clarity and the clearness of the screen on the back of the camera, and the strengths and bonuses of using this don't outweigh having that extra bit of gear in the bag. But let me know what you think. Have you used one? Do you use one? Is it something that you've been thinking of trying? I can certainly see the usefulness for videoing. Having this additional screen on the back of a small camera could be incredibly useful, but for standard photography, not so sure. But one thing I would say is a budget monitor like this really does enable you to go out, try it, and see if it works for you. So a bit of a different episode, this vlog. Sometimes it's nice to look at gear, see if it'll be useful, and do let me know whether it's something that you've tried or something that you've been looking into. Now, we're just about to head on our epic road adventure, carrying on up the East Coast. Hopefully we're going to see some castles, sea stacks, islands along the way. We're hoping to get up as far as John O'Groats and across the top, maybe as far as the Kyle of Tongue. So I hope you'll join us for those episodes. And I think that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the vlog. If you have, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. And I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Thank you so much for watching.